We're up to the second paragraph of Ois David, which will be on page 7 if you have these copies. So he's explaining what is echad. And why we say Daf Krishna Yisrael Avayla Kein Echad? Because echad, Hashem's decision to make himself known even to creation, and that creation should know the absolute truth of Ein Mulvadoi, that's what echad is. And as we said, echad is creation saying yochid. That's what echad is. So it's the memutza between echad and voed, which is the starting point of creation, mitlayesh, in terms of its relationship with Hashem. Okay, so he's continuing now. Explaining the union of echad. So he starts to say that every aspect of Ishtalshaddus, Oyer and even Kelim, are rooted and carried latently and are rooted in the Oyer in Sof Lifnei HaTzimtzum, where the truth of Yochid is. And so therefore, because in the words of the Kabbalah and Chassidus, that the Kav is Negeya, and touches, Negeya touches, and is Dovuk in the Oyer Lifnei HaTzimtzum, therefore creation can know and does know, can know the truth of Havaya, of Yochid, of the exclusivity of the Eibishter. And as he said yesterday, that the whole union of Oilamis, with the of the Eibishter, I'm not going to repeat the whole beer again, but he took us to successive levels, remains true as it was in the Aliyah Sarotzen for Oilamis, and moreover, in the Likim Lifnei HaTzimtzum. That's true even post-creation. That truth, because the Oyer is Dovuk, is drawn into creation, is present to be discovered and revealed through Avodah in creation. Right? They brought a dugma nigla, very interesting dugma nigla at the end of that ois, to bring out what? Could someone tell me? The neder brings out what? What is the first of all, what is the dugma in nigla for the neder? It's the end of the second paragraph on page 7. I can't hear you, sorry.
And when he makes it a neder, it's nullified right away.
You're telling a story that's a halacha. What's the case? It's a case. It's a halacha in the Hilchos Nedarim. It's a unique kind of neder. What's the neder there? The specifics aren't negeya. It's the principle. He's making a certain kind of neder. Third line from the bottom there. He makes a neder, he says. He now makes a vow. And he says that when I make a vow, whatever it's going to be, that's going to be nullified. So, what's the whole definition of that vow that he's now going to make? What is its whole definition? And now, a vow that it's going to be nullified. It's almost like it nullifies itself. Its nullification is precipitated by the making of the vow. Inherent, it's an unbelievable motion. Inherent to the vow is itself undoing, its self-disappearance. Because before that, he made this condition. The neder, there's two nedorim in here, in other words. There's a neder which precedes the second neder. The first one says, he's declaring, I'm now making a neder. that when I make a neder, that neder is going to be nullified. So it's a mediatic emotion. What does he want to bring out with the emotion here? This is echad. This is what echad does. This is what echad, this is a moshel in Nigla to demonstrate what the Eibishter has done by manifesting himself in the way of echad.
Just like the neder, it's actually a neder, but it becomes, it doesn't have a mitzvah, it doesn't have its own mitzvah really. So similarly, the mitzvah of the belt exists, but it doesn't.
Right. So, creation, we can go even further, just that the purpose of creation is that it should realize, but it should, that it is not a creation in the sense of an independent being. So it is or it isn't. Now you might ask the question on the second neder, is there a neder or isn't there a neder? The one that he actually makes. The answer is yes, no. There is. But the nukuda is, its very isness, its very isness is what precipitates its not being. Because the neder before that said, when I make the neder, then it's going to, the making of the neder is, so too, a whole of creation, the ha'tchkila, is to express its non-separateness, its non-existence. But it should express its non-existence. Not Yochid comes and just makes everything, the illusions disappear because of Yochid. Creation itself should acknowledge that. The neder itself is party and integral to, and intrinsic to its own bittul. That's what echad is. So again, the echad is us recognizing, declaring Yochid. So in detail, he said the oyer carries this through, and likewise the kelim. Now the kelim is a little more different. Okay, oyer, that the creative force. He's saying that the creative force carries through with it latently the truth of Ened Mulvada is something we can appreciate more readily than the next point. That the keli is all about tzimtzum and helam. Keli is all about keli. Oir is made on moir. Oir reveals the source. And keli is, the very word keli implies a recipient. Tzimtzum, borders, boundaries, definition. So how was it he's saying, even, and now he's saying that even mitzad the keli, it's true. What is true? That it is not a mitzias, not just the oil which reveals the truth. The keli overtly conceals the truth. So just use the words of the Maimar, top of page 8, what did he say? First of all, the keli is something else, and the oil, there's one Eibishter here and one expression. What is the keli? So first of all, he says that, we're not going to go into this beer now, but we'll understand the significance. Second line, the middle word. What is that? What's that word there? On page 8. Obvious. No, obvious is not, what's obvious? British Airway points. Obvious, no? Obvious, it's also, it flies. To rise up. Obvious means thickness, av. The kalim come from the thickness of the oil. What does this mean? There's no oil, there's no kalim. The gashmi is oil thick. Certainly light isn't thick. It's all again misholim. The nekuda is, it's one Eibishter and one Gilui here. And he's expressing himself. So he's taking us, pulling back the layers here. The keli is not something else. The oil carries the truth. Because it's Moishe Shalifnei Atzimtzum. And it's by divine design, God wants. It's the whole kavanah. That Welt and Olam should know his absolute truth. And therefore, in his creative process of it, he didn't create us in such a way that we should be forever locked out of that truth. And just be locked into our mitzias. That's why there's a whole Seder Shtalshus and why we have to understand He didn't have to create this way, he didn't have to create anyway, he didn't have to create. But he created in such a way that the key to the truth of his being should be accessible and revealed by creation. That's true of every aspect of the creative process, the oil and the keli. The keli is from the obvious oil. Oil means to reveal his presence. The keli also reveals his presence because of the thickness of the oil. It has another message. The message of the keli is that the Eibishter can be in this Galding Gvul. The explanation starts 5 lines down at the bottom. That's the Shem Elikim we referred to earlier. It's at the shleimus of the Eibishter. It's at the shleimus of Ein Sof. There's everything there. There's bli gvul and gvul. And so the keli is rooted. Even the hardcore keli in Ishtalshalos, the lowest levels of gvul, us, you and I here, can have the recognition and understanding, at least like with the knowledge, and therefore it, in the end, it can penetrate heart and behavior and everything that gvul itself is nothing other than the expression of the shleimus of the Eibishter. So therefore, be'emet are completely bottled. But Ella, the bittul of the oil and the keli is different. The bittul of the keli is the oil reveals, makes a statement, and the keli makes a deeper statement. Really, the keli says there's nothing. The oil says there's an Eibishter, but the keli says there's what deepens that truth. Nothing other than the Eibishter. Not to have a smokim at all. The keli as it's emerged as a sphere, as a definition, all the way down. There's a metzias here. So the keli looks at its metzias and says, your whole metzias is mitzad the shleimus of Ein Sof. So the avoid of the keli is the bittul of metzias, of the sense of independence. The oil component reveals the truth. The keli is head that tfisas mokim. It gives the marshal of a small chacham in the presence of a big chacham. So there's not he has to pummel himself into non-existence. It's in the presence of the great chacham. He naturally feels his insignificance when the keli realizes your whole metzias of keli is you. So because of the shleimus of the Eibishter, there's also gvul. So the whole sense of metzias just naturally dissolves. But he goes on to say that's even a bigger milah than the oil. And notwithstanding, the keli already begins the process and of metzias, still bottled b'tachlis. So conclusion, this is the inyan of echad. Echad is the yichud mitzad oilemus. And that's the memutza to what? The level below that is what? And what the vo'ed? Pardon? Bitalayesh. Void is echa b'chlufi asven, as we explained, the same letters, substitution of letters. The dalet remains the same. He explains later the echad of the dalet of echad is big. It's malchus of atzilus, and the dalet of void is small. It's already. So what does this mean? The government delay, right? So we wanted. This is that the Yichuda Yiloh should permeate Yichuda Tata. I have a simple question for you. Why do you need Yichuda Tata? Yichuda Yiloh Echad is revealing the truth. Lamata, Aleph, Ches, Dalet, Oilemus, Oilis, and Kelim. It's the complete acknowledgement of existence. And it says the emes. And it's an emes that we can relate to. It's not Yachid. It's acknowledging, it's the memutza. So if it's the memutza, stay with the memutza. What do you need void for? It's a simple, a foolish question. Huh? Yeah, that's the, okay, elaborate a bit, good.
It doesn't want that he should, that it should be an expression of him, that we should express our relationship with him too.
But isn't Echad saying that?
It's almost compelled to say it because we're saying it, but we're compelled to say it.
Yeah, Echad is mitzad l'mayla. Echad is the truth mitzad l'mayla. Now, as you say, voed, BaChodesh, Malchus, and voed is our reality. It's already biyar and the lower. It's a complete. What's our reality? Our reality is the starting point is us, and it's inescapable. It's inescapable, right? The cards. I think, therefore I am. Which what he meant to say was everything else. I don't know. I mean, it could be, it could not be. Could be imagining it, not imagining it. I know is that there's a thing. I can imagine my body as well. But there's something, there is consciousness entertaining. The only point that I am absolutely, that exists with absolute certainty for the person is the fact that it's entertaining, it's consciousness. We can't escape that. Everything is experienced through, again, meditation is the attempt to transcend that, but it's, I hope if they're honest, it's an attempt to get closer and closer to transcending self. But all you're doing is transcending more hardcore levels of self, just going into deeper levels of self, more subtle, more sublime. But you can't escape. If you're meditating, today you're meditating. It's not that meditation meditates through you. You're meditating. It's your avodah, quote unquote. Akoponim, so we are locked in the world of void. That's the reality. The Eibishter is kindness. You revealed yourself in such a way to know which is really this nakuda. That the oiris and the kelim, it's all expression of you, etc. You, by your kindness, by Matan it's really when it happened. You revealed this truth that we can know Shema Yisrael Hashem Lakin Hashem Echad. So what that means in practical terms, that even though the reality is, except for the tzaddik, but we're going to be forever perpetually struggling in Iskafia, struggling in the world of our world, but knowing the emes, that this is not real, this whole test, this whole temptation, and this whole business, the emes is elikus, it's all mitzad Darash and Elyon. It lends, just knowing this, it lends and lifts us. And in Pel Mamish, beyond what we would just give up towards, and keeps on. That's the whole constant demand is asking more and break the boundary and never enough and never enough and never enough. Why mitzad the matzah's enough? It's extraordinary achievements. What do you want more? Give me a break. Take it easy now. Rest. This is all gidra mitzias. No, the constant demand for more, because the truth of Havaya Echad is here. And we can declare it and understand it. And so, as we engage in the Avodah V'Iskafia, it softens and the borders keep on changing perpetually. And of course, to the tzaddik, that he's a special neshama, to walk around it with his bittul of Yichud Yilov, Havaya Echad, Shema Yisrael in a conscious way. That's not the Avodah for us, for the vast majority of us. Okay, so now Oishei begins the whole beard of Aleph. Yeah. Let's do it slowly. I'm actually going to go kind of line by line so you can follow with me. So this intermediary of Echad, that's the intermediary, that's Megala to void, Megala to us in our world. The union of Yochid. So what is it? Aleph Ches Dalet. So this Maimon explains the Aleph. You remember the next time we're going to learn Beis Hashem, tomorrow, the day after, Maimon from Simchas Beis Hashem, there explains Ches, and as I told you, I just looked ahead, I didn't learn it, but he also talks about Yom Kippur. So let's see how it goes. So first Aleph. So first he brings from the Baal Shem Tov. We start to have a quote, the Shara Tkiyas. Love and Eid Kiyas, Shefet Pekef, and I said Baal Shem Tov, so that Aleph, we're looking at the letter Aleph and its memutza quality, level by level. Number one, Pasha Begashmis. Aleph is the intermediary between the unarticulated voice or sound and speech. Sound comes from, he calls the Hevel Alev, the breath of the heart, and sound is a Kreil Poshut, no differentiation. Speech, on the other hand, is all about articulation. So the sound is Poshut, the speech is Chalkus. So it needs the two opposite worlds. So it has to be the intermediary, and the intermediary has to be connected to both worlds. Like the Meturgamon was the intermediary between the Rav and the Talmud, right? Likewise, the Mamutza between Kerl and Dibur is Aleph. Every sound, every manifested sound starts as an right? Aleph. And then it becomes a particular sound. Now, fine, that's the first in Nimshal. You recall he starts with the Nimshal level 1 and then concludes, Kesed is or isn't. It's not. Starts as B'chura, we would say the Kesed is. He makes a statement of fact. I mean, he later says not, but what does it mean not? It's all relative. Deeper, it's not. So we need a more manifested mutza. So first, it's 3 lines to the top of page line. First, he says that what's Aleph Lamayl, it's Kesed. Kesed, the crown is the mutza between the Ein Sof, the Mites, and the Atzilus. He said, Be'emes, no. Kesed is not a memutza, and then he analyzes, addresses both levels of Kesed. They both belong to the world of Ein Sof, not our world at all. Doesn't have the properties of the memutza. First of all, Pnimis HaKesed, which is Atik, he says what? What does the word Atik mean? It has several meanings, but here it means ancient. It also means what? Removed, Ne'atak. Ancient also means removed, mind you, removed, far back. Also means to copy. We had that recently. Oh, here, right here. And even according to the Piddush, that it means to copy, it means the pasuk Asher Tikan Shechizkiya, which we explain the context of that. So copy means it's the same thing. He says no. Nonetheless, what is it? Is a copy of, as it were, a carbon copy. It's still Ein Sof Shlomayim HaKesed. So therefore, Kesed, not the true Memutza. Not Atik for sure not. What about Arich? And even Arich. So Arich is like a Rotzen. Parallel within the Nefesh Odom is a Rotzen. And Rotzen, by its very nature, has no Shayches to Pnimius. It's Makif. As we all know, that Rotzen is this great force in the Nefesh that completely overrides Seichel and Midas and behavior at its whim. And not filtered. Pure Rotzen is Bachlal, doesn't take into account mind, heart, body. As we always point out, we very rarely activate the power of will. When the power of will is activated, it just mows down everything. It's completely nothing is negotiable within the self and out there either. When people do things which are impossible under normal circumstances, extraordinary feats of physical strength, etc., when the will is firing. So the will is not a memutza. To koichas pnimim, to conscious, descriptive faculties within the nefesh, and likewise, therefore, arich, which is the rotzen ha'elyon, is therefore belongs to Maila, belongs to the realm of the Ein Sof, and is not a memutza. No. So what is the level of Mutza Lamaila? What is it? With this, you have a copy? Oh, no. Find it for me. That's the geography. Give me the name. What is it? Middle of page 9. Base Hey. Let's translate those words because it's going to peel back layers and layers here to zero in wherein lies the memutza. All to explain the darga of echad. So chochmas dimo in translation means hidden chochma. What's hidden chochma? So first we've arrived at our memutza level. Shiklula mina elya mina tachta. This is a level that has both properties of elyon and tachta. Now we're supposed to understand this. What's chochmas dimo? So the dogma is going to be in nefesh adam. Every sphere. Yeah, but it's all relative. Elyon and tachta to what? To the level above it, which is still part of Ishtaushala. So we want an elyon and tachta that's memutza between beyond the system and the system, completely. The memutza between Ein Sof and Eilamus. Not just a relative memutza between one level and another. So what is it? B'nefesh Adam, what is it? It's right there, the number 56. The Koyach HaMaskil. So let's be clear. What's Koyach HaMaskil? What is it? Simple English. Okay, listen, if I hasn't been for a while, she should be sitting here every year. Our McGill student. We have one McGill student here who has zero background about any of this, intelligent young fella and wants to learn. It says, explain this to me. You have to use English, no Hebrew, no background, just in simple language. No. So what's Koyach HaMaskil?
Why is he here? You had a choice to be here or not to be here. You might as well made him here.
So we just invite, because I haven't, maybe he's sitting all along. I didn't address him. So my apologies. Now, thank you. Now I'm speaking on his behalf, and he's turning to you fellas, and he's saying, could you tell me what this means, Koyach HaMaskil? What is that? Huh? Speak up.
Intellectual faculty?
Intellectual faculty is true, but it's a little bit vague, because there's going to be other levels here. So what's Chachma, not intellectual faculty, not what's Bina?
So the power of inference?
Pardon?
The power to infer?
It's a little bit too a nice attempt, but that's a particular a talent within intellect and an articulated one. It's way deeper.
It's the power of the completion of the essence of the soul that happens to express itself within Chochma. It's a power. It's a power that shows.
You're talking about it relative to the Etzem HaNefesh. I'm not asking you to draw its relative relationship to the Etzem HaNefesh. What is it you're addressing with respect to the core essence of the soul? I'm asking just on its own, Koyach HaMaskil, the definition of what this is. And the word power is not a very good word, I don't think.
Potential. It's a potential. It's not a power. It's a potential.
Right, you're saying, okay, I'm just trying to no, add another few words to the fray here. The koyach for what? The capacity of a human being to conceive ideas, produce ideas, conceive. Period.
For intellectual.
What? Conceive what? Everything and anything. And then there's all kinds of process after that to differentiate them. Chachma, Bina. It's every and any subject and all subjects. It's the pure, maybe you're saying this, I'm just articulating it. It is the pure, in other words, this is what we need to understand. Here's my question to you. When you look at the Koyach HaMaskil, this is a layer in the Nefesh Are you going to see any idea there? A thought, a concept, a theorem? No. It's way deeper than an articulated theorem of any kind. What are you going to see? You're going to see an entity, an intellectual.
No.
It's a soul that is able to understand. So this is the memutza. Why is it a memutza? Because the koyach hamaskil, it's completely removed from, he says, from any mitzvah shebeseichel. There's no articulated idea there. It's not fouled by koyach hamaskil. There's all kinds of fouling there, and then there's geography, and there's astronomy, and there's a million ideas and concepts. None of that. It's mursha from any mitzvahs. But on the other hand, what's the other hand? But to say that it's the etzem hanefesh. Let's go back for a second, go deeper. We're going to first give it, actually, we're going to get some addresses along the way. But let's go straight from koyach hamaskil to etzem hanefesh. What do you see in etzem hanefesh? Would it be true to say at etzem hanefesh that you can see there that this is a being that has the capacity to understand? Are you going to see that in etzem hanefesh? No. In etzem hanefesh, I mean, actually, well, you're not going to peg it as an intellectual being. In etzem hanefesh, that too, but all kinds of endless emotion and all of the endless expressions of the human condition are in potential in etzem hanefesh, but none of them articulate. You see, etzem hanefesh is the human being. The nefesh. But the koyach hamaskil is one step already away from the etzem nefesh. The nefesh starts to produce, and this is all the Moishe for the way Shtalshalis works. The Gabi atzmas erin sof. What do we care till we get this right or not right? First of all, it's nice to understand how you work, how you tick. Not only is it nice, but Tanya is predicated on you cannot be who you need to be if you don't understand how you work. So understanding of self is integral to articulating all of one's expressing and realizing all of one's ability. But much more than that, a thorough understanding of the nefesh works is the greatest gift in the world, because we're having the chesed elyon. This is the whole memutza. The Eibush articulated himself in a memutzidik way that we can understand his manifestation by understanding ourselves. So why is it a memutza? It's not the etzem hanefesh, because we're calling it, we got some definition, it's koyach hamaskil. We're seeing intellectual. We're not seeing here all of the other capacities of the human condition. We look at koyach hamaskil, crazy emotions that human beings express, and other stuff. So therefore it's a memutza, because it is not mushal from minyan ha-seichel, it produces seichel. So what he calls it the koyach hayuli l'seichel, this raw, yuli means raw, non-differentiated energy or matter that produces seichel. And therefore this is the memutza, which is comprised of the elyon and the tacht. We are not finished. We'll continue Be'ez Hashem tomorrow.